What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Off the Couch Boxing, right here in the center of the ring. Standing here, as always, your host, Reckless Rex Ruger, along with the Alexis Arguello puppet. Flying solo tonight, no Benjis, but I'm going to muscle through because I am the muscle of the show. You guys know this. So we're going to get down to brass tacks. We got a kick-ass interview, and he's here now. So let's chop it up. I'm excited about this one. This the man right here. Carlos, how are you, my man? I can't hear you. You might have to hit the microphone at the bottom. No, I can see you, but I can't hear you. Your microphone's on. Sometimes at the bottom, there's a microphone icon down there. Nothing yet. It's all right. This is what technology does to us. There's no crying in podcasting. That's what I always say. Maybe try to go out and come back in again. You know, if you need to, you can disconnect and come back into the room again with the same link. Try that. That might work. We'll get him, folks. We will get him because we always get our man. The Alexis Arguello puppet laughing his head off back there. But, of course, nothing to add ever. Straighten your tie and look presentable. Do I got you?
Can you hear me?
Now I can hear you. Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
Great.
Sometimes that's all it takes. You know what I mean? I've been doing this for so long, man, and I usually have my son on here who co-hosts with me, but he's also got a family of 4, so he makes the episodes that he can make. You know what I mean? So
okay, yeah, I got
sometimes
you.
he leaves me flying solo, and I muscle on. I always have the Alexis Arguello puppet here with me, though.
Oh, nice. I
figured you would appreciate that.
Of course, yeah. That was my guy.
I love him, man.
Him.
And carried himself with such class outside the ring too.
Absolutely.
That's always the best champions. You know, that's why when I ask a lot of people who their GOAT is on here, a lot of people go to Muhammad Ali, and I think it's much more for the guy that he was outside the ring and what he stood for. You know.
Yeah. Correct. Exactly.
So anyway, for boxing fans that don't know, Carlos Hernandez, who I'm going to say it right now because nobody else probably will, man, but credited with the only knockdown of Floyd Mayweather back when Floyd Mayweather was Pretty Boy Floyd, and he was still knocking people out and a little more ferocious than the Money Mayweather era.
Absolutely. I mean, he just finished destroying Corrales.
Yeah.
So I mean, I was fighting the fierce Floyd Mayweather, and it was a good fight, but you know, he hurt his hand.
Yeah,
he hurt his hand, whatever you want to call it. But it was I did give I believe a valiant effort, and did what I could to try to nullify his running. But he is a very skillful fighter, and he obviously won. And but I believe I'm the 4th on the list of the fighters that have landed the most on Floyd Mayweather.
Yeah, which is pretty high praise because he's not an easy guy to land on.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I mean, but for me to be above Canelo and Pacquiao, to me, it makes me feel good.
And a very strange bit of trivia being that you brought up Pacquiao, and for God's sakes, I do a boxing podcast and never even know that Pacquiao even had a fighting brother. So I guess that's a discredit to me, but you fought Bobby Pacquiao.
I did. In fact, that was I believe it was in Ring Magazine as Robbery of the Year.
Yeah.
And it was a good fight, tough loss. It was I think that was the beginning of the end for me.
Yeah.
It was just one of those where I felt the fight was close. It didn't go my way. You know, I didn't have the name. Also, then I fight Jesus Chavez. So that year was very, very not very good for me. You know, I lose a very close decision as well to Jesus Chavez, and so it was very, very bittersweet though for me, because I mean I felt that I won, or at least we could have gone to the draw, but you know, I did what I could, and I had a great career.
Now, if we could backtrack a little bit and chop it up about your early life, how and why did you get into boxing? Because me and my son always laugh when we get a lot of guests on here, and we've done almost 150 episodes. It always seems like there's a lot of people. Well, it's a lot of the same sentiment. It's either a father pushed them into it, or they were getting into a lot of street fights, or a combination of both. What was it for you?
That was it's a combination of both. My father just, I guess it was just rough, and he didn't want to see me hanging around with the gangster kids around, and so he took us to the gym, all of us, and I stayed in the gym. The thing is, my father brought me up going to the Olympic Auditorium. As a kid, I would see Roberto Duran, Carlos Palomino, Indian Red Lopez, Danny Little Red Lopez. So I would see those guys, Bobby Chacon, but I didn't like boxing. I just felt it was too boring. It was like they were always hugging each other, and I don't know. I just didn't feel like it wasn't my thing.
Right, it wasn't in your blood. Yeah,
it wasn't. But at 15 years old, 16 years old, fighting in the street, now I need to know how to fight. And so I was another thing, I was a little chubby, and so I felt like I needed to lose weight, and that was one of the things that helped me lose weight as well. But more than anything, I just had a lot of anger issues. I was a very troubled kid, and boxing helped me.
And were you somebody now, because you said it really wasn't in your blood and you weren't feeling it when you first started getting into it. Did you have, how when you get into a sport, you've got those guys that you put up on a pedestal? Did you have those boxing idols, got guys that you looked up to and wanted to emulate?
Well, Duran was always that one guy because my father loved the guy. And so I knew about him. I knew that persona he carried. And I kind of like that, that bravado type guy.
Yeah.
And I like that, and I wanted that as well. But now when it came to fighting, too, I was always watching boxing with my neighborhood kids, friends, and all that, and we'd always argue about who's better, Sugar Ray or Roberto Duran. And so there was always that conversation, but I wasn't really a diehard boxing fan. I just, more than anything, I was just into wanting the fight, and the gangs were around that time, so
yeah,
a lot of it, and it was in our neighborhood, and that was what was cool, and that was what I think helped my father. He just said, I gotta get you out of this. You gotta go, because he was always busy at work, so he just took me to a gym with the other guys, and I loved it.
Now, are there guys now, do you keep a keen eye on the sport now at all? Are you, from a fan standpoint? And if so, are there guys that you currently enjoy watching and enjoy what they do?
Yeah, I do. Even though I missed last night's show, I do try to stay on top of boxing. I just have my business, though. I have my real estate company, and that keeps me busy. And so, sometimes I can't make these.
Hey, you don't have to tell me. Last night was a school night for me too. I had to get up bright and early this morning, and I wanted to stay up to watch Bud Crawford do his thing. But the 3 fights before that were really the ones that intrigued me the most. And by the way, shout out to Jose Valenzuela. I was super happy for him last night. Now, Pitbull is the guy that reminds me. Now, beating Pitbull Cruz, is no small task. And in a lot of ways, he does remind me of a very similar style to you. You were on the front foot, very aggressive, smothered guys a lot. You know what I mean? But it didn't work out so well for him last night. Like when he fought a guy that was long and able to use his jab and had a nice skill set.
Absolutely, he had the perfect plan.
Yeah,
I mean, he had Robert Garcia in his corner. So
yeah, who I've had on the show, and he's a great guy too. We've had him on before. One of the best.
Absolutely, we used to be roommates back in Big Bear when we used to live in Big Bear together. We used to train together.
Yeah,
and just a great guy, and I'm very happy for him for his success, and everything he's doing.
But Bud did take a little bit. Although Bud did take a little bit of a licking, though, today in the press, on different things that I've seen where people are a little bit criticizing, this whole notion of fighting Canelo, where people weren't really impressed with the move up to 154 and if his power necessarily carried up there and how well he would do even going up a couple more weight divisions to fight Canelo.
Yeah, I did read that. Again, I didn't see the fight, so I can't really talk about it. You know, it just would be, I think, just it wouldn't be how would you say? It wouldn't be fair for me to talk about something that I didn't see. And
Yeah.
I like Canelo, but and I really like Crawford. I really do, but I cannot talk about it. You know, if I haven't seen it.
Yeah, and you know, obviously Canelo has stamped his own ticket. He's certainly a Hall of Famer. He doesn't have to fight anybody that he doesn't want to. But Mexican fighters are always, you know, guys who, at least when I think, I'm 51 years old, so like when I think of the Alexis Arguellos, you know, any of the Latino fighters, the Salvador Sanchez's, I always think that these guys, wanted to make a legacy and wanted to fight the best guys. I'm just wondering, do you think Canelo, because he's been linked to the David Benavidez fight for so long, is going to look back on it with regrets that he didn't take it? It seems like it's going to be like a black eye on his career. And I know maybe he's not sweating it when he's sitting on top of a pile of hundreds of millions of dollars or whatever, but still, even just from a legacy standpoint, though.
That's a great question. I mean, I think there's always going to be like an asterisk beside his name, as him being the best Mexican fighter or whatever. Yes, you probably were, but you didn't face the guy at your weight division, and which was David Benavidez. I think he will look back, and it will maybe bother him. But like you said, he'll be sitting on a pile of cash.
Yeah,
he's already sitting on. He doesn't honestly, he doesn't need the guy.
Right.
I think he's not motivated anymore to make that legacy. All he wants now is just easy money.
Yeah.
Because he's fighting guys that are definitely not going to, I don't know, like Berlanga. I'm not really interested in watching that fight. That's a fight that I don't have to watch.
Right. It doesn't have that sizzle. Yeah.
No, exactly. So if he's gonna fight a guy like Benavidez, yeah, definitely I'm tuning in.
Now, you as an old school guy, you certainly, when watching you fight, a throwback style. I'm sure you've got a very old school attitude. A tough, gritty guy. So like when you see what's kind of come into this sport that we love in terms of these, we usually on the show we refer to them as gimmick fights. Like when you see these MMA guys against boxers, or even worse, taking a step further, you see these Jake Paul type spectacles. Do you like these for the sport? It's a very polarizing topic on here. We do get people that say, well, it brings eyes to the sport, but it also does seem a little bit kind of, gimmicky.
Yeah. So to me, it's very clownish. I really don't care for it. They do bring eyes, which is great, and I believe Jake Paul does put in the work. But it's very hard for guys who are struggling and who really put in that work and are not seen, and it's sad that that has to happen, but it is business. I mean, I have to give it up to Jake Paul, smart guy, making millions of dollars fighting bums, or maybe not bums but trash cans, or tomato cans, but it is what it is, I guess. People like it. I don't care for it. I really don't. It's like you said it. I'm old school. I want to see guys who are going to give you their everything. That's what we do it for. To give it to the fans as well, not just for us, but for the fans. I did it for my country, but it's my fans. I wanted to freaking die in the ring if I had to. Obviously, I didn't want to, but I would have done it because I wanted to fight. I was fighting for a country. I was fighting for legacy for my country.
And for just as many legends that we've had on the show, we love to give a platform to young up and coming fighters. And it seems like it sticks in their craw probably the most, because as you alluded to, you do get these guys that have been grinding at this sport since they're 6, 7, 8 years old, and they're just dreaming of those kind of paydays. And this guy just kind of steps in, and within a couple of years, he's making $20-30 million a fight, where these guys might never get that kind of opportunity.
Exactly. So I mean, you're going to get people that are envious, or just it hurts them. It hurts their ego. But I can't blame Jake Paul. He's doing what what he can, and he's cashing it in. I mean, he's doing what he could do to put food on the table as well.
Right. Now, in your career, you certainly got, a fantastic resume. The Flushing Flash, Kevin Kelly, Pacquiao's brother, Jesus Chavez, Eric Morales, Stevie Forbes, of course, the aforementioned Mayweather, Genaro Hernandez. But was there a fight out there that you wanted that didn't come to fruition, that was kind of on your radar that just didn't happen, but you would have loved to see it happen?
Yes, there were a few fights actually. One was Gotti. I wanted Gotti.
Yeah.
I wanted to fight Gotti. I think he was a little ahead of me, but I think that would have been a great fight because he was at 130, then he moved up, and I always stayed at 130. But I think that would have been a great fight between us at the time where we could have fought. But when I thought it was time for us to fight, it would have been a great fight. He was already at 140.
Right.
And so it just wouldn't have worked for us. Another guy that you're mentioning, that I mean not mentioning, but was a guy that I wouldn't have mind fighting. Dude, his name just slipped away. But I think it was what's his name? Hamed.
Prince Nassim?
Prince Nassim.
Yeah.
I wanted a guy like that. He was just so exciting, and so I just wanted to fight a guy like that because I took boxing personal. So it's like it wasn't like we're friends and all that. I took him like he's the guy that's standing in front of me.
Yeah.
I gotta really make it a fight. That's why I never really had a style because of a boxer, because I knew how to do that. I knew how to box like Rayo Valenzuela, the guy who beat Pitbull.
Yeah.
I could have done that, but the inner demon that I had inside just didn't allow me. I just wanted to attack you. I wanted to make it into a dirty fight and stay inside, feel my head hit your head. I wanted that inside kind of fighting, and I would have loved to have fought Prince Nassim Hamed at his best, and he's considered one of the best of all time.
I believe in another article I also saw you say, and you might have even called him out actually by name, but Marco Antonio Barrera.
Oh yes, that's another one. Correct.
Yeah.
Yes, I actually called him out on live TV.
Yes,
and he said he was going to give me an opportunity, which that never happened. But it would have been a great fight, I think. But I think it's a fight that he didn't need to take. It was possibly a dangerous fight for him. Why take it? So
right.
I don't blame him.
And now going back to the point, to the point I made earlier about you being an old school guy, do you think sometimes, and I certainly see this, from a generational standpoint, where we don't quite always see the big fights, getting made, and it's frustrating, and it seems like sometimes maybe the advancements in technology might be standing in the way, whereas guys almost seem a little more content to argue and beef on Twitter or back and forth on social media rather than get these big fights done. And I'm wondering, how you feel about the advent of technology, in the sport, because it seems like sometimes it's sometimes a big hindrance and a roadblock to getting these fights done.
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes both ways. It could help you, but it could also hinder you and cause you not to move forward. That's what I believe in. But if it's around and if you could take advantage of it, just why not, right?
Right. It's a great promotional tool, a great way to sell a fight, certainly.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just totally different now. I myself have to adapt to promote my own brand, and to see how these young guys have millions of followers.
I know,
hundreds of thousands of followers, and I barely have 5,000.
I know.
And so it is pretty hard to keep up and to stay current with what's happening. But if these guys could use it to their advantage, I don't think it should matter. But it definitely was better in the older days when it was just it was, and there weren't too many promoters where I think like Bob Arum and Don King were able to promote fights together and make
Yeah.
a good fight together. Now it's very hard with your PBC. Then you have other guys, Golden Boy, Top Rank. There's too many people, and then you start missing fights because of one promoter doesn't like the other promoter, and that's what I don't like about boxing. There's too many people involved.
What about the idea that, and this hasn't come to fruition yet, but it's certainly been making news in the boxing circles and on the boxing pages. I keep up with all that stuff. Doing this show, I try to keep an ear to the pavement and find out what's going on. Where there was talk about the Saudi Arabians trying to get everybody under one umbrella, and I don't know that this will happen. I guess all the promoters would have to be willing to sell or come to some kind of agreement. But do you like the role that the people like Turkey Al Sheikh and the Saudi Arabians? They really seem like they're really intent on really trying to make big fights. Like they put on that card last night, and it was stacked from top to bottom. Intriguing matchups. I mean, that's the kind of card where you feel good laying your money out, your pay-per-view dollars.
Yeah, exactly. You're absolutely right, because there's fights that you're paying for like $100 practically, and it's only one decent fight,
right?
And all the rest are just, oh my gosh, it's a waste of money. But I do like this. I do like the fact that he wants to get, like before, just there should be just one champion.
Yeah.
But I know it's a business. I know it's a business for promoters, even for myself. I would like to promote fights, but maybe for just guys who are up and coming, and maybe set them out for the big fights with the bigger promoter. But that one promoter, not all these other promoters, and then they don't allow these fights to happen. Look at Mayweather Pacquiao. Come on, that was what, 8 years later.
Yeah, even the even the matchup where Lomachenko just pulled out of the tank fight. A fight we would have liked to have seen 5 years ago.
Exactly. There's many fights like that, but because of promotional ties with somebody else and problems, I think that's the reason why fights don't happen. But if there were only one, and you just getting ranked and fighting, I mean, it was crooked back in the day too, though.
Sure.
So I mean, you're open to that as well. So to corruption and all that. So I don't know, man. It's just very tough. But for now, I'm on the side of having one promoter and one organization, because now all these other promoters or all these other organizations, like boxing organizations like WBC, WBA, I mean, they're going to be hurting because they want their money. And
right.
That's what it is. It's all about money. And so I feel like some guys are, it's more like a popularity contest, because this guy brings in more people and they rank you higher for that. Not because you're a better fighter or you beat the guy that you should have beaten and climbed the ladder. It's about popularity contests. That's what I don't like about it.
Yeah. Also, that being said, too, I think another thing that certainly detracts us pulling more people, into the sport, and we're still seeing plenty of this, on a pretty frequent basis too. We are still seeing, and I have a lot of guests on here where I bring up how do we fix this. We are still seeing a lot of bad judging and a lot of bad scoring.
Why exactly? Why is that?
Yeah, and I brought up the guests on here, and some of my guests have had some good ideas where we've even talked about, like, first and foremost, I think it's a great idea, to have people that participated on some level, even if they didn't get out of the amateurs, somebody that was in there and knows what it takes to be in there. And I don't even necessarily think you even have to judge these fights from ringside. I sometimes get the same scores watching them at home with a better view on TV, not looking through the ropes, not looking up. You could almost do them from a remote location and have people that actually fought and have experts doing them from their own home. And I think they could come up with the same scores without actually being there. I think a lot of it is also tainted by, hearing the commentary too.
Absolutely right. I do agree. But I would have to say, I used to work with Univision, and I used to go to these, the shows that they used to do for Solo Boxeo, Univision. And I would have to tell you that watching it right there, like a judge, you see something else than sometimes than another person. Yeah. And I'm like, you could even, I guess, even hear when the punch lands and you hear the guy grunt.
Sure.
You hear that. So maybe probably influences the judge even more, you know.
Right.
So those are probably some of the things that, you know, a fan doesn't see, or a guy behind the computer, he doesn't hear, because you know, we're so far away. But the judges are really actually right there, where they get that blood going on. I
Yeah.
have some clothes that I remember having blood on my clothes because of
Yeah.
I was so close to him.
Yeah. But boxing needs to do a better job, though. I mean, you know.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I do agree. I think they need to be trained a little bit more.
Yeah.
There should be some kind of training, or some kind of class that you need to take to stay current with the kind of judging, or what is it that you're judging?
Right.
Is it, you know, the boxer or the puncher? Is it the guy that's going after the other guy, or are you awarding the fight because the guy is a better runner? You know?
Right.
So
Now,
yeah,
you made
things like
mention
that, I
earlier.
think need to.
Now, you made mention earlier that you kind of knew, like, when your time in the ring was up. But that being said, you know, we see so many guys, you know, you kind of get that itch and come back. You know, was that a difficult thing for you to resolve and kind of come to terms with in your own mind? Like, was it hard for you, like, from a physical and mental standpoint, to walk away from the sport for good?
Yes, it was. It was very difficult. I went through a depression, and it was yeah, I had the support of my family, and my ex-wife back then, she's a sports psychologist, and you know, she was telling me, you know, this, you're done. You know, it's time to do something else,
Right.
because what she didn't want to do is feed me through a straw.
Right.
And
Right.
so I felt, you know, she's like, enjoy the kids, and that's what I did. I was able to watch my kids grow up, and open my a couple of businesses, thank God. But yeah, it was tough, and I haven't trained, like, hit the bag or really, in like years, because I was afraid that once I start getting that itch, I'd want to come back.
It awakens things inside of you.
It
Yeah.
does, it
Yeah.
does.
Yeah. So what has life after boxing been like for you? Like, I know at one point you were training fighters. Is that something you continue to do?
I actually do. You know, I do continue to work with local fighters, local MMA fighters as well, that do that UFC type stuff.
Yeah.
And but I work with them on just the boxing part. Uh, but I'm really into what is the real estate. I'm a realtor,
Yeah.
and just right now, just grinding. I'm hustling, because you know, the market's kind of bad right now. So you know, I'm doing what
Yeah.
I can to survive and put food on the table. But it's been a bad couple of years, though. You know, I went through a divorce, a bad divorce. So it was very, very hard and tough for me, because I'm from LA.
Yeah.
So my network is in LA. My people are in LA. My family's in LA.
Right.
And then to just get up and move to San Antonio, Texas, it was a shock, and it was something. It was like I had to start over,
Yeah.
and that's what I did, and I still keep fighting today for that, but it's always been pretty tough for me to acclimate myself to another kind of life, because it's a slower pace here.
Right. But I do see those guys, you know, it always angers me because you see these guys, and I guess this is one of those things that's, you know, you can play devil's advocate on this, but you see a lot of guys who are, you know, I guess you'd call them a defensive fighter, and you know, you'll have one group of people that'll say, like somebody like a Shakur Stevenson, for instance, you'll have a group of people say, wow, that was a defensive masterclass, but then you'll have another group of people that will say he's not entertaining, he's running all the time. You know what I mean? But you know, how do you discern between those two? Because I do see a lot of legends after the sport, as you made mention, who aren't doing so good in the faculty department. You know, at the end of the day, it is really the art of hitting and not getting hit. So is Shakur Stevenson really doing boxing wrong, or does he got it figured out, you know, the right way?
Yeah, yes, I think he does. He's a great boxer, and he's a smart fighter. But there's a time. That's why we're fighters, is
Right.
to bring out that gladiator in you,
Right.
and really put yourself a little bit more in danger.
Yeah.
And see what happens, because you not getting hit and all that and making guys miss is great, but at least give us something more exciting.
Right.
And
Right.
and he's not doing it.
Right.
He's not marketable.
Yeah.
I think he's a tremendous defensive fighter, but even Pernell Whitaker would give a little bit more
Hit you.
than
Yeah.
he would, exactly. He would throw and
Yeah.
and land and try to stay in there and mix it up. That's
Yeah.
that's why you're in this business. It's not just defense.
Right.
Do something as well.
And you're certainly not going to attract fans because, at the end of the day, man, it's just like baseball fans turning out in that excitement when they see a home run or when you go to a football game and you see a touchdown. People want to see punches landed and obviously knockouts are pleasing to people,
Exactly. So, I mean, you're in this business where, do something exciting if you're going to be in this business. If not, just stick to doing what you're doing, but people are not going to watch you.
Right. Now, I want to get your opinion here. Now, Mount Rushmore, 4 faces out on Mount Rushmore. Who's your boxing Mount Rushmore? Your 4 top guys for you of all time.
Jack Johnson.
Okay.
Sugar Ray Robinson. Roberto Duran. And who was that other guy that I really liked? I don't know. I really was a big fan of Nonito Donaire.
Oh yeah,
he was. I think he was one of my all-time great fighters. I saw him fight. I think it was his pro debut or his second fight, and I was like, he fought a friend of mine, and I was like, wow, this Filipino kid is good. And I went to congratulate him, and he was all kind of like awestruck. He was like, hey, Famoso, I'm a big fan. And now, I'm a huge fan. I'm a big fan. So that kid, he's done so well in boxing. But what I like is he's got that power. He has that mobility. He does it all. He's not just a runner. And he puts himself in danger. And look what happened with the Inoue fight. He didn't have to do that, but he did.
Right.
Just to be great. And
right.
I love that. I love when fighters put themselves and I'm not saying, they put themselves in harm's way, but they put themselves there just in case. I mean, if they get hurt, I think they'll know when to say, this is it.
It's a high risk, high reward type of field,
Correct. Exactly.
Now, back when you were making weight and you were fighting, if you can harken back to those days for a minute, after you've made weight and the fight is already done and in the books, man, right afterwards, man, what was the go-to food? What did you have to have after a fight that you wanted to scarf down?
Dietitian was so different. It was so old school.
Yeah.
I wish what I know now I would have done. But everything was about pasta. So I had old school trainers. I had Jackie McCoy, Bill Slayton, and those guys. And then I had Carlos Monzon's trainer.
Yeah.
So which was Amilcar Brusa.
Guys that would crack the whip.
Yeah, definitely. And so I learned from those guys, and it was about pasta. Yeah. That was the go-to place, food to eat.
And when you talk about weight, like, being that we're on the topic of weight, we see a lot of these boxers, especially the A-side guys, like they like to implement these like rehydration clauses. Are you a fan of those?
No.
No?
No. I mean,
you're an old school guy, so you're probably like, whatever you come in at.
I used to fight. I used to weigh in that day,
right,
and fight that night.
Yes.
And, at the end of my career, I was able to, weigh in and fight the next day. But the beginning and the middle of my career, it was you weigh in, you fight that day,
which I
love. Fight that night.
Yeah,
it was great. That. It was great. There was no advantage there that you feel. I think I was the first fight where that rule was put in by the IBF where you cannot weigh more than 10 pounds after the initial weigh-in.
Yeah.
Because of what Steve Forbes did.
Right. Another guy that you fought. Yeah, I've had him on the show. Yeah, another big topical thing in boxing right now, that's being made, a lot. And I know rules are there for a reason or whatever, But do you like how ostracized and we're seeing Ryan Garcia being right now? I mean, do you think that was a big deal in the Devin Haney fight? I mean, I know it's going to come under the umbrella of cheating. I know he's got something in his system that isn't supposed to be there. But do you agree with the Devin Haney loss getting expunged completely off his record?
Yeah, see, that's where I tell you about these organizations. It's about money.
Yeah.
And it's about it's business.
Yeah.
And all I see, it to me, it's a slap in the face. I mean, for somebody who won or somebody who lost. I mean, you lost, even though the guy did. The guy who, and we still don't know if he really did or not. I'm not so sure if you had that stuff in your system that's really gonna, if a guy's got that in his system, if I'm taking that shouldn't prevent you from getting the hell out of the way of my left hook. You know what I mean? Yeah, exactly. That's the perfect.
I mean, maybe my left hook is a little harder. Maybe it's got a little more pop, but it's your job to get the hell out of the way of it.
Yeah. And I don't believe it gives you even that advantage.
Right.
I don't. But I don't know. Maybe many people believe that, but if that were true, they'd be caught and suspended or whatever.
Well, it goes back to even when Barry Bonds was hitting all those home runs. You know what I mean? Yes, maybe he's able to recover faster and work out and gain more strength and maybe even hit the ball farther. But getting a bat on 100-mile-an-hour fastball is the hard part,
Exactly. That's a perfect analogy right there.
I mean, That's not really something that steroids is really going to help out your hand-eye coordination.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, it may give you that power. I fortunately never did that. I didn't have to.
Right.
I felt I just felt so clean, and I didn't need all that stuff that's happening or that's out there today. I don't agree with it. I don't. It is possible if it gives the guy an advantage. It probably does. Then maybe it's not fair. But for me, I need to see evidence, and I haven't clearly seen evidence that the guy did it. Because then they come back that they didn't, that the numbers were wrong. So I really don't know. It's a soap opera there. But for Devin Haney to get that L taken away, like if he's still undefeated, that's a mistake, and slap to all the other fighters who have lost with other guys who have cheated. Look at Alexander Arguello and Aaron Pryor. Why wasn't that expunged or
the mystery water jug? Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I mean, we even heard on camera, I mean, it was even captured in the corner, hey, give me the water jug. No,
give me the water. Give me that water. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, so he was very much talking about wanting a specific bottle, I mean, and he even said it in the corner. No, not that one, the one that I mixed up.
And that guy is a shady guy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Panama
absolutely.
Lewis. Yeah. Man.
Yeah, there's been controversy around him.
I met him one time. I don't know if he's still alive, but I met him 30 plus years ago in Monterrey, Mexico, and he was there with other fighters. And I was like, wow, this guy was like a big guy and like just a very showman. He was a very interesting guy.
Yeah. Well, I've really enjoyed this conversation, Carlos. I'm glad we got a chance to do this. Usually at the end of these interviews, I like to implore people to stay in touch, man, especially when I have a good time talking to them. I would love to do this again sometime for sure. So please, let's stay in touch.
I appreciate you giving me this time.
Yeah.
It's always great to go back and remember all the great memories that I had in this sport.
Yeah, and you certainly provided us with a lot of them too. So thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
I appreciate having you on, Carlos, man. And, I look forward to talking to you again, man. This has been a real pleasure. Thank you.
Sounds good, man. God bless.
All right. Good talking to you, Carlos. God bless, buddy.
You.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
There he goes, folks. That is the great Carlos El Famoso Hernandez. You might remember him as your IBF Super Featherweight Champion at one time. 43 wins, 8 losses, 1 draw, 24 big wins coming by way of knockout. And let me put on my Papa glasses here. I did run down the resume, been in the ring with the Flushing Flash, Kevin Kelly, Manny Pacquiao's brother, unbeknownst to me, Bobby Pacquiao, Jesus Chavez, Eric Morales, Stevie Forbes, Gennaro Hernandez, the great Floyd Mayweather Jr., who he did officially get credit for a knockdown. I mean, hey, Floyd's hand happened to run into the guy's head or whatever the hell he broke it on. But a knockdown's a knockdown. He gets credit for it, man. So, yes, people out there, Floyd has had a knockdown counted against him. That might be a good little trivia question. You know, I'm sure the purists and the boxing fans certainly know, the historians, the people who know the sport, but a lot of people just think that Floyd is this big, you know, larger than life guy. And he did retire from the sport 50-0. A few of those fights might have an asterisk next to him where you could go back and watch them again, i.e. the Jose Luis Castillos, the Marcos Maidanas, the fight with Oscar De La Hoya, where some guys, you know, certainly made it very hard and competitive. Carlos Hernandez being one of those guys, a very nip and tuck battle, a very close fight. Hopefully he gets the credit that he rightfully deserves because he did fight Floyd. And as he mentioned, it did land on Floyd a lot. So, you know, and that was back, as I said, in the pre-boy Floyd days, when Floyd was a little more aggressive, a little more demonstrative in his technique or whatever, before the Money Mayweather era. So anyway, getting off track here, man. Big pleasure having Carlos Hernandez on, man. Really appreciate him doing that. Former IBF Super Featherweight Champion. Great to talk to him, man. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Make sure to like and follow us on Facebook, and be sure to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell on this very channel, as these are the best boxing conversations anywhere in the civilized world. This is where people from the fight game come to chop it up, and we get down to the brass tacks and keep it real here, man. These are the best boxing conversations, bar none. You ain't going to find them anywhere else. Scroll through, look at the playlist, tons of legends and luminaries, and, of course, lots of guys on the come up who we'd love to give a platform to. So I think there's something there for everybody. So stay tapped in, and remember, if you want to be a champion, you got to roll with the champs.